Yes, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on our webinar, Encouraging Employer Support of Moms in the Workplace. I'm Nancy. I'm with the Florida Business Case. I'm the co-chair. I'm an IBCLC, and I've been with the Department of Health with WIC. I'm going to introduce our speakers that are going to be joining us today. Our first keynote speaker is going to be Cathy Carothers of Every Mother Incorporated. And also Esther Singleton. She's an IBCLC with the Broward County Health Department, and she is the co-chair of the business case as well. I'm going to let Cathy Carothers take the floor now. Thank you, Cathy.
Thanks so much, Nancy, and welcome to all of you. It's really an incredible honor to have the opportunity to spend a few minutes with my good friends at the Florida Breastfeeding Coalition to share with you some of the wonderful new resources that are now available to help you in supporting the nursing moms at work that you deal with, whether you are working with moms in the hospital or in the community or in the WIC program or wherever. Before I really begin, I wanted to remind all of you that Florida was one of our target states for the business case for breastfeeding, as I think all of you are well familiar with. This was a national project sponsored by the HHS Maternal and Child Health Bureau, and Florida was one of the states selected to host the two-day training event that was held in, I believe it was in Daytona. And I believe you also received some funding to implement some outreach with some of the targeted work sites in your community. And I've heard nothing but good things about the work that you all have done, so congratulations for that. It's always been a joy to work with the Florida folks. Since that time, there's actually been quite a lot of activity at the national level to identify the needs of the business community and to just continue developing resources that they feel will be helpful to them in supporting their employees. And I just wanted to let you all know Florida has, again, figured prominently in many of these efforts. We have several Florida businesses that are represented in some of the new resources, and we were very honored, and particularly to have the opportunity to launch the new website resources for the Office on Women's Health at the Society for Human Resource Management Conference, which was held in Orlando just this last July. So I don't think Nancy knew I was going to put this picture up, but I did want to show one of the pictures that we took. I'm especially grateful to Pat and to Nancy who joined us at the conference. This conference hosted about 24,000 business people from all over the world, including a lot of Florida businesses, and they were all there to join us to help launch the new Office on Women's Health resources. And as I mentioned, this conference reached people all over the world, but there were a large number of Florida businesses who are here as well. And I did want to point out the lady sitting on the far right here under my mouse scroll. This is Nancy Lee, who is the director of the Office on Women's Health, who came to Orlando to personally participate in the launch. And then Ursula Singleton, also from the Office on Women's Health, who was our project officer. And I did want to show you a little closer up picture of one of the things we had at the conference. This is a portable lactation room that we created and put inside our exhibit space. The Florida Breastfeeding Coalition helped us with the space. They furnished it for us, brought the furniture, the breast pump in there, brought in posters and door signs and etc. to make this a nice cozy space for the participants there at the conference. What was nice is that we actually did this to draw attention to the business community about really what a lactation space would look like, and to help them see that it's not as big and scary and, you know, complicated as a lot of times people make it out to be. And I have to say, people were telling us all week that this one little invention or one little intervention of having the space was really the hit of the conference. People came from all over to see the space. They took pictures to carry back to their supervisors and decision makers back at work. We had mothers coming, lighting up, wanting to use this. At one point, we had 2 or 3 moms in here at the same time using the space. This is one of the mothers who was very grateful that she had a place to go while she was there in the exhibit hall, and she gave me permission to take her picture and asked us to spread it widely. She said, I hope it goes viral. I want everyone to know how happy I am that the SHRM conference actually made arrangements for this. So was a wonderful, wonderful event. So again, many, many thanks to Florida for helping us to launch this national project. I did want to let you know that there have been a lot of national initiatives that have been underway since the business case for breastfeeding training was held in Florida. And of course, all of you are well aware, I think, of the Affordable Care Act, which has been probably one of the biggest things to happen in centuries related to support for working moms. This law finally moves breastfeeding support out of the realm of just a nice thing to do for moms and for business to now a federal requirement. So I wanted to just give a very quick review of what this law requires, because a lot of people are still a little confused about exactly what is included. The law went into effect in 2010. It has a provision that addresses the need of nursing moms in the workplace, which is found in Section 4207. 4207 actually amends Section 7 of the Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938. And what I wanted to point out about this is, because the law is housed in this particular section of the legislation, it applies, this particular section of the law, to women who are eligible for overtime. In other words, women who are working in hourly jobs, those who are eligible for overtime type positions. It does not apply, this section of the law does not apply to salaried workers. And because of that, the law currently only applies to the non-exempt workers. In other words, those who are not exempt from overtime, or in other words, they are eligible for overtime. There have been a lot of people who've been frustrated about that. You know, why would they pass a law that only works for certain segments of people? And I think probably the main reason for that was that this was an easy way to get something into the law. Trying to implement a different law that applied to everyone was going to be a much harder sell, and this was a way to get your foot in the door, change, add a little bit of language in an existing law to make it possible for those workers who were facing the greatest challenges. And we know that our moms who are working in hourly jobs are the ones who really, really struggle with being able to manage breastfeeding and work. Moms who are working in retail stores and restaurants and manufacturing plants and so many other kinds of very, very difficult and often low-wage, low-paying jobs where there are not as many benefits and not as much flexibility as mothers who are working in salaried positions. So that's why the law is the way it is, but that doesn't mean that people are not concerned about teachers and about nurses and other people who work in difficult salary jobs. There has been legislation proposed by Senator Merkley and Carolyn Maloney to extend the benefits of this law to all workers, including salaried workers. And as of the present time, I don't believe that law, it has not been passed, but it's out there. And I would really urge the Florida Coalition to do as much advocacy as you can to try to heighten awareness amongst Florida legislators of why this law is so important. The law does require, as most of you know, reasonable time for moms to express their milk while they are at work. The time allowed is up to a year after the baby is born, but we find that a lot of employers are happy to continue supporting moms. You know, once they get aware of why this is so important, they tend to be pretty supportive beyond that. But the law had to provide some kind of a time limit. Now, there have been a lot of people who have debated this and wondered, well, why does it say reasonable time? I mean, what does that mean? We've had a lot of businesses ask us, well, how many hours a day would be reasonable? How many times a day would be reasonable? We'd like you to define that a little better. And you know, when Senator Merkley proposed this legislation, he purposely kept it very vague. And the reason for that is because we don't know what the needs of each individual mother and her baby might be. A new mom who's just come back to work, say 2 or 3 weeks after her baby is born, is going to have different needs than a mother whose baby is much older and perhaps already starting solid foods. So this really allows, by using the words reasonable time, it allows both the mother and her employer an opportunity to have a conversation about what the needs are going to be. Most of you are very aware of the private place. Legislation allows for a private place. It cannot be a bathroom, and this picture shows why a bathroom is not a good place to be pumping milk. The law says the space must be free from intrusion from both coworkers and the public. And that actually means that if a mother is in a multi-user room, there would need to be space or privacy options allowed for women within that space. So there's lots of options that people have looked at, like curtains and bulletin boards and other kinds of barriers that can help provide some privacy. The law does not require that every business has to have a dedicated room for lactation. This has been another very misunderstood part about the law. It says an employer must accommodate women by providing them with private space that is free from intrusion. So it's possible that even a flexible solution like this with a barrier and a well-communicated policy so that all the employees know that when somebody is in that space that they need to honor and respect the signage and the policy that is there. So that's part of the law. Another extremely misunderstood part about the law, and I find even a lot of lactation people did not understand this, and that is the section that talks about businesses with fewer than 50 employees. And these would be really often small businesses with a few number of employees, like little retail stores and mom and pop type shops. The law states that companies with less than 50 employees can apply for exemption if they can demonstrate that the law would place an undue financial hardship on their business. But this does not mean that the law does not apply to companies with fewer employees, 50 employees, and that's what a lot of businesses believe. They believe that the law just doesn't apply to them, and that is not what the law says at all. It simply means that if a company happens to have fewer than 50 employees, they can elect to apply for exemptions with the State Department of Labor, but they must be able to prove that there would be an undue financial hardship. So I'm finding in a lot of states, I don't know about Florida's experience, but I'm finding in a lot of states that when companies go to their state DOL, that the State Department of Labor urges them to go to their coalition and see if they can't find some solutions for how to make it work. So we've not seen a huge outcry of businesses across the country who are applying for exemption. In fact, I don't know if there have been any applications for exemption. In most states, the businesses are working with their coalitions to find some solutions. And that's the good news. There really are loads of solutions everywhere. Now, one of the breaking news that I wanted to share with you is some new information just out as of last week regarding maternity leave policies, and I felt like this was really important for you all to be aware of. Many of you are certainly aware of the fact that the United States is only one of 4 countries in the world that we're aware of that do not have a paid maternity leave policy. And while this isn't strictly a breastfeeding issue, certainly we all know that without paid maternity leave, many women, particularly those working in low-wage jobs, would not be able to breastfeed for long if they're not able to be home long enough to really establish breastfeeding. So we've been looking at this at the national level. There have been a lot of initiatives going on. A group called Moms Rising, which is an advocacy group of over 1 million moms across the country, have been advocating for paid leave. The National Partnership for Women and Families has been working on paid leave initiatives. And a lot of talk and a lot of mobilization and organization of different groups and advocacy individuals across the country really starting to look at this. And what is really exciting is that last Thursday, if you haven't heard the news, President Obama's Chief of Staff made the announcement that the President is implementing a national paid leave initiative to provide workers with paid leave protection. You know, guys, we have waited a really long time to kind of hear this kind of news at the national level. So you can go do a Google search for the New York Times and paid family leave initiative, and it should come right up. You should be able to read the article that was published in the New York Times on Thursday. And essentially what the President has announced is a presidential memo to the Office on Personnel Management, and this is the agency that provides oversight for all of the federal agencies. They do the similar job for federal agencies that the Department of Labor does for non-federal businesses and companies across the country. So this memo is important because the President is directing federal agencies to provide up to 6 weeks of paid maternity leave after the birth or adoption of a child. And he's also asked that this benefit be extended to all American families. He also asked for the implementation of at least 7 sick days for American workers, and that's important because many companies provide no sick days for their employees. He's also recommended a $2 million incentive fund to help states pay for family leave programs. So, I mean, I think we know that the climate in Washington now is that this will probably be a fight, and congressional approval will probably be required for certain aspects of the things he's recommended. But it's a start, and it's now at the level of a national dialogue, which I am very excited about. I read today that the President will be addressing this at his State of the Union address tonight. So I, for one, plan to tune in and try to learn a little bit more about what he's recommending and to see what we can do at the grassroots level to help advocate for the things that we feel will be helpful for breastfeeding moms. Now, in addition to maternity leave, I certainly do want to talk about some of the things that have been happening with regard to breastfeeding support here in the country. And I wanted to share with you the project I've been working on for the last really 5 years or so. This actually began with outreach that we began conducting with national business organizations through a contract with the HHS Office on Women's Health. Office on Women's Health, you all are familiar with them. I think they published the Easy Guide to Breastfeeding, the magazines that we were able to get for many years for free. They publish a lot of breastfeeding stuff. They help coordinate the National Breastfeeding Ad Campaign that was issued a few years ago. And they also were a financial supporter of the Business Case for Breastfeeding initiative. So they've been very, very involved in this work for a number of years. They contracted with us about 4 to 5 years ago and asked us to begin by spending a year building relationships with the national business community. So we made personal visits, held a summit for the business community, and have done quite a lot of work in establishing relationships with the National Restaurant Association, the National Retail Federation, the AFL-CIO, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the Society for Human Resource Management, and just, I don't know, there's about 20 other national business organizations. They've invited, many of them have invited me to provide conference presentations at their national events. We have done tons of webinars for members of these organizations to help not only share with them information about the law and solutions that could help their businesses, but also learning what their needs and their barriers were. And interestingly, through this process, we learned some pretty amazing information. One of the key things we learned, that not only are businesses totally clueless and unaware of what the needs of breastfeeding moms are, and they're totally clueless about the ramifications and implications of the law itself, but we also learned that they're really not opposed to supporting their employees. In fact, most businesses told us, we do want to do the right thing. We care about our employees. We want them to be happy when they're at work. But we need solutions. We don't see how this is even possible in our setting. And you have to remember, most business people are focused on the bottom line. They just don't understand what mothers need, and they don't know how to make this work in some of the challenging situations that a lot of our hourly workers find themselves. We also learned, interestingly, as we have talked to mothers across the country and as part of some work we did in New York, that employees themselves not only are unaware of the law, but they are not speaking up about their needs. And because they're quiet and they're suffering in silence and just choosing to wean their baby instead of raise the issue, the employer has incorrectly assumed that there's no need for lactation support in their company. I've had so many business people tell me, I've hired women of childbearing ages for years. I've never had anybody ever come to me and say that they needed this. So they believe it's a non-issue. So part of our work and our responsibility, I think, is to raise the awareness among women that it is okay to talk about what your needs are going to be with your employer. We need them to start speaking up. And the more women start speaking up, the more the businesses will begin to respond in a positive way. I did want to share with you that I was involved with another project in New York where we did focus groups with moms all over the state. And then we also did in-depth interviews with employers. And lo and behold, these were moms who were on the WIC program. So these were low-income moms working in the types of low-wage hourly jobs, very challenging worksite settings. And lo and behold, we learned once again employers were not opposed to supporting their employees, but they wanted solutions. We also learned that HR people know about the laws. However, the supervisors do not. And we also learned that if there's a small business where there is no HR department, that the average business owner is totally clueless about the law. We learned that they did not know anything about the federal law, and even more amazing, they didn't know that there was a law in New York. And New York has a very robust and stringent law. It's an excellent law in New York. Moms that we interviewed said they had never spoken up about their needs to their employer because they assumed they wouldn't support them. And they said to us, if we only knew that there was a law, we would have spoken up. And so this is exciting to me because this is a problem we can fix. It's about educating the moms to speak up about their needs and letting their employers know that there are solutions even in some of these most difficult environments. So for the OWH project, we partnered with 10 state breastfeeding coalitions. Florida was not one of the original 10 that we partnered with, but we did work with Florida on including some submissions from your state. We actually received over about hundreds of solutions from businesses, and we were able to narrow down all the data that we received to 200 businesses in 34 states. And so you see here that Florida is among the states that we worked with. We also collaborated with the Society for Human Resource Management. They guided us throughout this entire process to make sure that the information that we included, the way we structured the resource, all of the ins and outs about how we did this, that they were providing the guidance to help us see that it would help meet the needs of the business community. They also provided expert panels for us to review this project. They reviewed all our videos that we created. It was an amazing, amazing process. And of course, that we partnered with them in the launch of the project in Florida at the SHRM conference. I wanted to also quickly share with you that we, in addition to the website that I'm going to show you a few pictures of in just a moment, we also produced 29 videos as we went around the country learning more and more about all that was happening and the businesses that had found some really great creative solutions. We went to 8 states, and we actually took a video team there to interview the HR people, the managers and owners, supervisors, employees, and other supporters to just talk about what these interventions at the business have meant for these moms and what it's meant for the employers. We had some great interviews with HR people who talked about very in just a positive way, articulated so well why this is an important thing. We talked to supervisors as well who talked about how do you make this work. This is a principal at a school we talked about who was just brilliant in some of the comments that he made. We talked to tons and tons and tons of moms, over 100 mothers that we interviewed, sharing their stories about why this was important for them. And this is a list of the videos that have been created. You can see from this list it's a wide variety of businesses, retail stores, restaurants, publishing houses, hotels, manufacturing firms, you name it. We're also now just about to launch a series of 4 YouTube videos that feature stories of 4 mothers that we interviewed throughout this process who give their stories of why this was so important for them. And hopefully these videos will be through clearance soon, and we'll be able to make those available. We'll make sure the Florida Coalition gets word whenever they're ready, and you can begin to forward those around through your social media networks. I wanted to quickly show you the website that we have put together. It was, this is the one that was launched in July. This is the web link here, so I'm going to leave this up for just a moment for those of you who would like to write down the web link. womenshealth.gov/breastfeeding-at-work. It is an extraordinary resource. It was an amazing process. We are so proud of this. And you can see as you look down the left-hand menu button that this website allows you to search by industry, to search by space. There's FAQs for employers, the business case for breastfeeding support. Businesses still need to know the bottom line benefits. It isn't just about the law. They need to know this is good for them. There's information from moms with links to resources. There's a page on what the laws actually say and what the verbiage is and what they mean. A section on breastfeeding policies at work with templates and examples of things that they can work into their own policies. And another page with more breastfeeding support for employers. So I invite you, if you haven't taken a look at this incredible resource, to take a look at it. I wanted to show you just a couple of pages. As I said, you can search by industry solution, and if you do that, you're going to see a list of 22 different industries, sectors, and these are the ones SHRM asked us to list. These are titled exactly the way SHRM titles these in their work with the business community. So if a business clicked on one of these, let's say they clicked on agriculture, fishing, hunting, went to that page, it would then take them to the agriculture page, and there they're going to learn more about what the agriculture field is like with breastfeeding, some of the challenges, some possible solutions that they could consider. And a little further down on that page, each one of these industry pages, there's a list of business examples. So here's where they can actually click on one of the businesses in this category and see how they did it. So if they clicked on Ryder-affiliated companies, for example, they would be taken to the Ryder page. This is a large strawberry, blueberry farm in Northern California. They hire about 23,000 employees, and it shows their solutions, lots of photos. This website is just chock full of photos, so they can see the solutions that people came up with. If they would prefer, they can actually search by solution. If they wanted to look at flexible options, permanent spaces for multiple users, if they want to look at outdoor solutions, or they wanted to look for amenities or policies, or lactation consultants, how to use lactation consultants and what their role would be. If they wanted to look at resources or breast pumps, they can actually just go to particular solutions that they might want to explore. So again, it's an amazing, amazing thing. I also wanted to mention that the slides that I'm sharing with you are actually available to you. You can download this entire platform. It is free. We developed this as part of this project. You would go to the U.S. Breastfeeding, the United States Breastfeeding Committee website at usbreastfeeding.org/SNMW. That stands for Supporting Nursing Moms at Work -platform. And when you get to that page at USBC, you're going to see some video tutorials that will show you, kind of walk you through how to download this and how to use all of these amazing resources. A little further down is a place, this is where you're going to click to download the platform. I really urge you to go through the tutorials first. Each one of these videos are about 1 minute in length, but it will make the difference in helping you to be sure that this is going to download properly. It's a very, very, very large file, and it will take you a long time for it to download, and this really will give you some guidance on how to do that. We also have some other resources that are coming soon. I'm very excited about this set of solution sheets that we've created. These are solution sheets, one-page solution sheets. One side gives some bottom lines for benefits, some basic information on the Affordable Care Act requirements. And the back page has some simple space solutions for that industry. And these will be available soon as a download on the OWH website. And again, I will let you all know when they come. We have them for retail stores, we have them for restaurants, for hotels, for agriculture, for manufacturing, and for service and transportation. Like service would be those who work in police departments, fire departments, etc., as well as the transportation industry. These have been pilot tested with the business community, and I have to say the businesses in each one of these sectors absolutely love these one-pagers. They're going to be using them to post on bulletin boards. They're going to be using them in staff meetings, supervisor trainings, and etc. So I'm really excited about these, and we'll let you know when those are available. We also are about to launch a toolkit for K-12 schools and universities. and a toolkit for hospitals, and these will focus on how to implement lactation support for employees in these two particular settings. These are two very challenging settings, and because they aren't covered by the law, we give a lot of information about the value of supporting mothers in salaried positions who are working in these two very difficult environments. Another resource that's available for you are the new resources that we publish for the New York Department of Health. These are New York specific, but there are some really good things in some of these materials that I think you all could use. To access them, you're going to go, either you can get them from the this platform that you can download yourself and actually pull the PDFs from, or better yet, just go to the New York Breastfeeding Partners website. I believe it's breastfeedingpartners.org, and on that site you can download all of these resources. They're titled Making It Work. The one for moms is the one I really wanted to point out to you. This is one that I'm just really proud of, and one of the things that I really like about this one, on page, let's see, I believe it's page 16, is one of the things that the mothers told us that they really wanted, and that is a My Lactation and Work plan. They wanted a piece of paper they could take to their employer to be able to talk about what their needs are going to be and have just a foundation for that conversation. So that's been a really, really powerful tool, and we're hearing phenomenal results about how well this tool is working for mothers in New York. So I just wanted to point you to that. I guess the final thing I wanted to say, I know my time is now about up, but I just wanted to let you know that there are so many things that your coalition can do to reach out to the mothers in your community. I would urge you to think about who in your community is already doing a good job, because we need to think about adding them to this database so that when that opportunity becomes available, hopefully sometime later this year, we'll be able to keep the site fresh and be able to make sure we have a lot of Florida businesses involved. I would also urge you to think about setting up a mentor-mentee relationship with some of your businesses. There's a group in Milwaukee, Wisconsin that has gotten a grant from the Kellogg Foundation to do just that. So they've identified a dozen model businesses to serve as mentors, and they're going to match them with mentees to be able to help businesses similar to theirs to set up lactation support, which I think is a great idea. I would also urge you to target businesses in your community who still need to get on board. Do some strategy planning to see how you can reach out to them and use some of these great resources. And above all, share the resources with your mothers, because they can be your best ambassadors as consumers of workplace support accommodations. And when you empower moms with information about the law and their rights and the solutions that can make it work, look out, because they will make things happen. Thank you so much, and I'll turn it back over to Nancy now.
Thank you, Cathy. That was wonderful. Thank you. We're going to have Esther join us now. Esther, are you available?
Yes, I am. Nancy, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Thank you, Esther.
Yes. Thank you again, Cathy, for providing us with this timely and relevant information regarding the updated business case for breastfeeding information, regarding information pertaining to the leave, supporting mothers on maternity leave, and your background and your inspiration on helping all mothers throughout this country and throughout the world with breastfeeding. So we really appreciated that. And we look forward, as the Florida group, working with those tools to expand our business case for breastfeeding. So those of you who are on the conference call, and if you're located in Florida, I'm now going to talk about what Florida Breastfeeding Coalition has implemented. Florida, as Cathy mentioned, Florida Breastfeeding Coalition, and we're going to go down to some general information on the website. 2010 is when Florida Breastfeeding Coalition joined forces with the national group and began to implement and create the Business Case for Breastfeeding program, the Employer Recognition Award, with Cathy and other founders of the Florida Breastfeeding Coalition website and organization. So when you go to the Florida Breastfeeding Coalition website, we look at that Florida, since 2010, has actually implemented and actually handed out over 65 business recognition awards. And we look at the categories, and the categories are, I'm going to start with the gold category. So the gold category, we can see that in that category there were about 44 businesses that received recognition awards. I want to show you right now a couple photos of the pumping rooms at the different businesses. And I wanted you to look at some of the businesses around our state. And here's some sample photos of those breastfeeding friendly pumping rooms that moms can utilize. And if we go down, we'll see a couple more. And you may actually be on the line and you may see on this webinar and see your company's picture. And that's just what we want to do, is continue to promote and support these businesses. We're going to page 2. We'll continue to look at some of the samples or photo clips. So now let's go back to the criteria. We were looking at the gold award, and so we got to see some of those photos, and those photos actually represent all the 3 criterias. But as we go down, we're going to look at the next criteria, which is the silver. So there's 3 criteria in which companies can receive recognition. And under the silver criteria, we see that we have 10 businesses recognized throughout the state. And then the bronze. Under the bronze criteria, we see that there are 11 businesses recognized throughout the state. So now that we have seen the different business types and categories, let's go to the application process. Again, on the website, this is a very simplified process in which you or you're being an assistant to the company to fill out the application. So let's look at the application now. You click on the application process and you see, we're going to stay right here for a moment. We're going to look at the application. We see that it's a very simple process by the company, by actually entering the company's background information, name, contact person, the type of award we think that they're applying for, but we want to put the contact, their phone number, their email address, the person completing this application, and then there's a series of questions in which you're going to check off yes or no as it applies to a written breastfeeding policy, verbal agreement between employee and mothers and their direct supervisor, a private area or a room to pump, not other than a bathroom, and you heard Cathy mention that. Flexible break time, flexible time to pump, about 15 to 20 minutes. Also, we're talking about a small table, a pump, for a pump to sit on, milk, a sink with running water, or clean pumping wipes, clean wipes so that moms can clean up after they are pumping. Paid maternity leave. You heard Cathy go over this wonderful provision that will be coming forth. Also, we have additional education materials, a chair, a clock, telephone in the room, also breastfeeding support information, hours, mother's work, whether there's flexible hours, job sharing, on-site child care, maternity leave, lending library, and additional resources of lactation consultants services available to employees. And then there is a area in which if there's any obstacles or there's any additional there, and then just simply go down to the very end and you'll see it's as simple as hitting that button to submit the application. So once the application has been submitted, we're going to stay right here for a minute. Let's go down to the categories, to the goal, and we'll see them on one snapshot page. So as I was saying, we'll stay right here for a moment. Once the application is submitted, you will receive, that company will receive at least an email confirmation that their information has been submitted. And then within 2 to 3 weeks, we're working on a turnaround to get out, if they qualify for the categories, the Certificate Recognition Award. So let's look at the criteria. I showed you the companies in the bronze, silver, and gold, as they qualify, but we don't want to overwhelm companies. We want it to know that this is for to help them, help their employees, and also for the companies to gain the benefits of the mothers utilizing these services because of all the many benefits and franchise. So looking at the awards, we look at the awards and we see the bronze. So look in the bronze category. If a company qualifies for that, all they have to have is that verbal agreement between the mother and her supervisor, her direct supervisor, for pumping, a private place for her to pump other than the restroom, flexible hours if we scroll down again for her to pump. And that's it in that category. So to receive the bronze recognition. Going over to the silver, we look at the silver and we see a verbal agreement again, or a written policy, verbal information provided to the employees about lactation support, a private lactation room for her to pump, comfortable chair. And then in this category, I want you to know there's private lactation room with the following, and the optional items are listed below. So in the silver, you're not necessarily requiring a company or want the company. If they happen to have a refrigerator, a sink nearby with running water, that's great. But if they do not, they would qualify for the silver if they meet those categories. And going down, we're looking at flexible work, a break time for moms, job sharing again, and one of the following is a lending library or resources for the breastfeeding, for the company and for the employees. Going over to the gold now, we see that there's plenty of companies out there, as you saw on our Florida list, with the 44 receiving the gold recognition because they too have put forth the effort to support employees back at work, at the work site, who are pumping or nursing. So they have a written policy for support, educational packets that's given out to the employees and their partners, private place to pump their or nurse their babies. They also have the table, the rocking chair, refrigerator, sink for cleanup or wipes. They have flexible hours to work for the employees. And in this category, again, look at it, it says one or more of the following. So it's not all of the following, it's just one or more in that flexible break time. And then the next category is all or some of the following. And so you see some of the following, again, resources for everyone, whether it's a lending library, lactation consultant services, or regional breastfeeding resources. So this gives us a great overview of how companies can apply and what they can apply for. So let's go back up to the top of the website. And again, this is Florida Breastfeeding Coalition website that recognizes businesses. Now, I also want to take a few moments to actually share a little awareness on our newest part of our coalition's arrangement and supporting those moms in child care settings. So supporting child care providers and also supporting families with the knowledge. So this is one of our latest add-on, which we're so very, very grateful for, because we realize that we're supporting the businesses and the moms going back to work, but those mothers who have to leave their babies, or they are choosing to leave their babies with child care providers, whether it is in the home or in a facility. So Florida has worked, Florida Breastfeeding Coalition has worked along with the Florida Department of Health to create this wonderful resource page which links up to other information. So when we scroll down, we're going to go all the way and we're going to see that this website or this page connects to pumping, storing milk. It connects to the, right here, learn how to become a breastfeeding friendly child care facility. Again, that is either or, in the home or in a setting, teaching those providers how to feed a breastfeeding baby. And let's click on, yes, great, let's click on one of the training modules, and you'll see the training module that has been created. So this is an all concise page that gives the learners, whether providers or mothers or families, basic information and general condensed information on how to provide that breastfeeding friendly support. Now, in Florida, we have an application process also. So those centers who actually fall under the Florida Child Care Food Program, actually receive an award for being friendly, breastfeeding friendly child care centers, and they receive an award, and then those centers who actually may not have the opportunity to be part of that program also receive awards. So we have an application. Let's click on that. And look at the application, another one, simple, condensed process to apply for the award. And actually at the end of applicating, answering the questions, applying the information, answering the questions, then that provider, child care center, or home center will receive contact information, and my colleague who worked very diligently on this project with myself is Crystal from the Florida Department of Health Bureau of Child Care Food Programs. And so this wonderful little awareness sticker is given to them with some other resources as books and information on how to become breastfeeding friendly for child care providers. So Florida has worked very diligently to meet the needs of our state. And as we come out of this program, I urge you to take some opportunity, those of you who are not familiar with our coalition. Look at the information, look at the website, become involved, as Cathy mentioned, so that we can help every mother who wants that support and that need and that guidance. So what we are doing at the end of this program today, we're actually allowing those who are on the call from Florida to answer a survey. We put together a survey so we can gather information from you all. Information is basic, is finding out what your needs in your community are as it pertains to business case and child care centers, and actually expanding, going to the grassroots and helping those mothers in those other communities throughout the state of Florida. So at this time, as going over the overview of where we at in the state of Florida, what we have created, and as we go forward to refine and update additional information, at this time I am going to turn it back over, and thank you for this honor of being on this program with Cathy and Nancy. I'm going to turn it over and see if we have any questions at this time. We have a few more minutes before the webinar ends. Nancy?
This is Pat.
Yes.
Yeah, this is Pat Lindsay, and no one has typed in any questions. If they would like to, we're not taking questions by raising your hand or opening microphones. But if there are any questions you'd like to type in, we only have a few more minutes. But the survey going out, many on the call are from Florida. But we do have some people on the call that are out of the state of Florida that wanted to hear Cathy speak, and we're happy to have you. I'll have a list, but I won't know what state you're in really from my list. So I'm going to send that survey out to everyone. If you're not in the state of Florida, you can discontinue it. If you are in the state of Florida, we highly, highly would appreciate you filling out the brief survey and getting it so we can have some feedback from you. I do see a question. Someone is asking, and I don't know if this is a Florida person or someone else, but they're asking, they said that all of their staff have private offices. Does this suffice? Well, if they all have private office, then they have a private place to pump their breast. So I think that would suffice as long as every person in that business has a private office. That you have other people in businesses. Nancy, I hope it's okay if you don't mind my answering this, but there are lots of different employees usually in an office, and many times, you have housekeeping or you have different kinds of positions. If every single person has a private place to pump their breast, that would suffice. Would you agree, Nancy?
I would certainly agree. Yes. Thank you, Pat. Yes.
That's the only question I have here. But do you have some other things you would like to see? They're asking now, we have a small refrigerator for each nursing mother's office plus adore. Yes, she's in Florida, so that's great. That's awesome.
Great.
If you haven't been awarded by our award, please fill out the application and apply.
That's wonderful, yes.
What is the best says what is the best recommendation for mothers employed by a nonprofit organization? I'm not sure that a nonprofit organization would be any different than any other business. It's just nonprofit instead of for-profit, and I don't think the law makes any distinction between nonprofit and for-profit so far as the mothers being able to pump in the workplace. That's all of the questions. So Nancy, would you like to say something?
I would just like to thank everybody, Esther, Cathy, and everybody for a wonderful, wonderful webinar. And thank you for all of your invaluable advice and assistance to put this project together. Pat, Lindsay, I would like to thank you as well. Esther, did you want to add anything?
Again, Nancy, I too like to thank all of the ones on the webinar joining us today, and we look forward to expanding our businesses. We have talked about establishing goals in our local community that will feed to the state organization of actually trying to recruit 20 businesses between this 2015 to 2017. So we look forward to all of those on the call, and if you're not on the call today, if you're on the call today and you know someone else who wants to listen to it and couldn't, please, we're going to have this as on our website so that they can listen at a later date, and we actually invite them to work with us at a grassroots level to get more businesses aware and support those employees and employers with the business case and the child care center recognition awards.
Thank you. And with that, when I get the recording posted to the website, I will send that out to all those who attended and all those who registered who did not get on the call, because we did have a limit of 101, and we did have some people that were actually turned away because we maxed out. So I will send that out to everyone who did register. So that was around 200 people. So I do have one more question. I don't know if we have an answer for this. I don't know if Cathy might be able to answer it, but I don't know that she's still on the call. It says, the question is, does the U.S. Department of Labor provide information about the federal law to state human resource departments?
This is Cathy. I am still on the call, and I do not know actually what the Federal Department of Labor does or what their normal relationship is with the State Departments of Labor. I would hope that there is that connection going on, but I'm not positive. I will say, if you haven't visited the Department of Labor website, you might want to go check it out. I believe you can just do a Google search for DOL breastfeeding, and their page is going to come right out. They have a number of resources that are listed on the website, lots and lots of links. They do link to the federal resources, and they also provide a downloadable card that a mother can print off that has the federal language of the federal law on it. It's like a little business card that a mother can print out and carry with her to work to show her employer what the law has to say. They also have a phenomenal document. It's called, gosh, now I can't remember the name of it, but it is, it's like an instruction sheet. It's called number 73. I remember that it's called number 73. But it provides some guidance to workplaces, and it basically provides an interpretation of what the federal law means. But in terms of direct contact and what they do with the state DOLs, I honestly don't know that relationship. So I'm sorry I can't answer that.
Okay, well, we thank you so much, Cathy. And I do want to say, this is Pat Lindsay again. We have our Florida Breastfeeding Coalition Conference, April the 18th. For all of those who I know were very energized by Cathy's talking to us and enjoyed hearing her talk and would like to hear more of her talk. She is our featured speaker at that conference on April the 18th, so we hope you'll join us then. Also on the screen now is Nancy and Esther's contact information, their email addresses, and I know that they would be more than happy to answer any questions you have if you'd like to email them. I appreciate everyone who took time out of their day today to be on this call, especially Cathy. She did a fantastic job despite she has a little cold going on. So we're really pleased that she agreed to do this for us, and then that she made it through it without having a problem with her throat. And we want you to rest up, Cathy, so you'll be in good shape for April the 18th when you meet with us down here.
I will do it. I'm looking forward to being with you all.
That's great. Nancy, you got anything else you'd like to add?
Not that I can think of. Thank you, Pat, and thank you, Cathy. Thank you, Esther, once again.
I'm going to end the webinar now, and it's sometime before the end of the day. You should receive an email, hopefully, with a link to where you can hear the presentation again, as well as our survey. So thank you, everyone, for participating today. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.